And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Invest. Clayton Morris, so glad to see you here on this Thursday. Coming up on the show, the U.S. dollar is set for a major decline. You could call it a collapse. If you've got your money tied to the federal currency, you may want to think twice about that. We'll tell you what is being said this morning by economists. COVID numbers break a new record. Up to 250,000 coronavirus deaths in the United States. We'll tell you what states are going through a round of lockdowns right now, from New York to Ohio to everywhere in between. We'll bring you the very latest on those. We're also going to talk about President-elect Biden playing a bit of the feminist card. You're going to see a lot of news stories over the next few weeks about how, wow, Team Biden, they really love women. They're going to put all these women in charge of amazing seats inside the government. Don't be fooled by all of that. We'll tell you what's behind that little bit of chicanery. Also, President Trump today wants to pull back even more troops in the Middle East and Africa. Boy, people are pissed about that. We'll tell you the new spots. And by the way, I think all of President Trump talking about bringing all these people home is making people wake up and say, wait a second, we're in that country too? We're in that country? How many of these countries are we in? So the more he talks about this, the more awareness I think it brings to the fact that we've got troops all over the world. And for what? We'll get into that this morning. Plus, we've got new jobless numbers that just came out moments ago. So we will get to that and how things are looking in the broader economy. So all of that and more on the show today. But first, I want to tell you about something special. You're able to get 4 free stocks right now. So our friends over at Webull are extending this deal. They just reached out. They said, we're going to go from 3 free stocks to 4. Because so many people have been taking advantage of this. So if you go to morninginvest.com/Webull right now and you open an account, you'll get 2 stocks for free. Okay. Then if you deposit $100 into your account, you'll get 2 more stocks valued up to $1,600. So, and they're about to roll out their cryptocurrency platform. So you can actually buy cryptocurrency right through Webull, which is super exciting for those of you who are interested in Bitcoin or Ethereum. And so it's just a stock trading app. You can do it right on your phone, but you have to use that link in order to get those 4 free stocks right now by going to morninginvest.com/Webull. We thank them for their support of the show. Hey, if Wall Street's doing super happy right now, doing great, why don't you get some free money out of the deal? And then if you don't use the app, just sell the stocks and keep the $1,600. Put it in your account. There you go. Close the account. You don't have to do anything more with it. So that's our little treat to you. All right, let's talk about the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is about to face some serious problems. You may want to call it a collapse. You may want to call it a massive decline. Either way, if your money is tied to government currency, you are in for a world of hurt. My wife and I looked across the table this morning and said, we've got to move that money out of that one savings account. Come on, because of this exact reason. So you may, in fact, see headlines like this over the next few days. Don't be fooled by this type of a headline. Gold prices tumble, U.S. dollar up. Yeah, that's about to change. Ooh, gold prices are down. The U.S. dollar is up. That's all about to change because the U.S. dollar is a safe haven, right? It's a safe haven during times of trouble. So everyone has been pouring their money into the U.S. dollar right now. But that's all about to change. And the reason it's about to change is because of vaccine. So 2 major moves on the vaccine front from Moderna and Pfizer. Pfizer now saying that their vaccine is even more successful than they thought it was. Upwards of 95% effectiveness. Moderna, upwards of 95% effectiveness. And we could see the first round of vaccines rolling out very, very soon. What that means, though, for Wall Street is they're going to start pulling their money out of the dollar, and we could see huge declines. Look at the Financial Times this morning talking about a huge dollar slump. Some experts predicting it could drop as much as 20%. 20% in the next few months. So what does that mean for you? Like, you hear all this Wall Street back and forth about the dollar. Like, how does this actually affect you as it may be a casual trader, or you've got some money in a savings account? Again, every day that you have a dollar in one of your generic savings accounts, it is worth less money tomorrow. Now, add on top of that a 20% decline in the value of the dollar. And so your dollar is not going to go anywhere nearly as far as it once did. Now imagine that you do business internationally and you're having to deal with the euro. The US dollar's buying power internationally is declining significantly. What does that do to American manufacturers? What does that do to American jobs? What does that do to companies that are wanting and thinking about, well, if I move my business overseas, I'll actually be doing better? There's broad implications on the US dollar declining. But most notably for your perspective, like in your savings account, having that dollar in a savings account, you're already losing money because it's not keeping up with inflation, right? So if inflation's about a 2%, and you're only getting 0.01% from your crappy Wells Fargo savings account or whatever it is, you're already losing money. Now imagine that dollar sitting in there just lost another 20% of value. You see what I'm saying here? Like putting money or having your money tied to the American currency in the form of dollar bills or coins and having it in a savings account is how you're going to feel like a huge punch to the stomach. So this is where you want to start thinking about precious metals. So when you see a headline like this, it says gold prices tumble. Well, that's a freaking awesome opportunity right now because it's a stable currency. It's something for 4,000 years that has sustained this craziness. So the US dollar is up, but this is just temporary. For some history, of course, the reason the dollar has been strong is because it is a safe haven. People run to the dollar. But remember, it's not tied to anything. It's only tied to the full faith and credit of the United States government. And when the government is printing money like crazy, add that on top of the fact that people are going to start pulling out of the dollar, and you are in for a world of hurt around the dollar. So it's an opportunity for you to buy some precious metals and gold, like our friends over at Birch Gold. They're not sponsoring today's episode or anything, but I just want to tell you about them. So you can go over and get your free gold kit by going to Birch Gold and check it out and see if moving some of that money you've got in the savings account into gold. Go to morninginvest.com/gold to get that free gold kit, and you can learn more about protecting your retirement savings there and moving these things over. Incredibly important to protect yourself during these times of uncertainty. And these uncertainty is tied to COVID right now and these jobs numbers. So just moments ago, we had the jobs numbers that just came out. So let me pull these up on the screen right before the show started. These are the newest jobless numbers. And not good. The number of applications for unemployment benefits held basically the same as last week, indicating continued challenges for the U.S. economic recovery, according to the Wall Street Journal. Economists surveyed the Wall Street Journal forecast that new unemployment claims, which is a proxy for layoffs, basically, came in at a seasonally adjusted 710,000 last week. That's up a little bit from the week before, showing that the economic recovery the economic recovery is losing steam after it had rebounded strongly in the third quarter. Yet another reason why we should push for stimulus, which we'll get to in a minute. But these numbers, employers have continued to expand headcounts in recent weeks, so they are hiring, but the number of people collecting unemployment has gone up. So so-called continuing claims declined through the summer and into the fall as many laid-off workers have been recalled to their job or found work elsewhere. That is some good news. But some of the recent drops in continuing claims represent individuals who have just exhausted the amount of payments they have through the regular state programs, and now they're starting to get access to that the additional 13 weeks of benefits through the federal government, which, by the way, run out at the end of December. Here's something else that runs out at the end of December. The pandemic student loan furlough. More than 37 million student loan borrowers, of course, are going to have to start to deal with this pause that disappears in just a few weeks. Like, here's a student, he's $65,000 in debt. This just disgusts me. I mean, that American students are saddled with this much debt, paying these universities this amount of money to get degrees that are becoming, in many ways, largely worthless. Again, why we need free public college. Here's a student studying, and he's $65,000 in debt, and very little prospect for a job or any kind of high-paying job. So he's going to be saddled with that student loan debt for years to come around his neck.
Well, and let's not forget the credit card companies also prey on them when they go into college to give them credit cards and everything to cover food and all this other stuff.
Yeah, add that on top of it. I remember at the University of Pittsburgh, I walked into the student union, one of my very first days at the University of Pittsburgh, and right there was a table from Bank of America to get your Bank of America Visa credit card so you can start establishing credit now. It's amazing how the United States, we care so much about establishing credit. Other countries don't. Europe, you get a credit card in Europe, it's like a 500 euro credit card. And for a business, like if you want to get like a business line of credit or a business credit card for a business in the Eurozone, you have to show, number one, that you have that amount of money to cover the balance you'll get on a credit card. So if you want to get like a maximum of $7,000, you get a little bit more, maybe 10,000 euros is like your cushion. You have to show that you're able to pay that back or that you have that on standby in an account. Same thing is true of getting a personal card. They only let you get like a 500 euro limit. That's it. In America, oh, you want $30,000? Sure. Can you pay for it? Doesn't matter. We can write it off. We're Chase. We're JP Morgan. We can write this stuff off. We don't care. It's unbelievable. And these kids, I remember getting that $500 Bank of America credit card, and I went right down to the CD store and bought like a bunch of REM CDs. And I didn't pay it off right away, I can tell you that. I ended up like $75,000 in debt.
Well, that's because in a college kid's mind, that's like, they think of that as free money. You know what I mean? Well, that's free money. I can just go blow it.
Right. And then they don't realize that they're going to have to, like, I was living off of my credit cards for a while. I was doing cash advances because I was so in debt, and I just couldn't get out of it. I was making no money. And I just kept I would do those access checks. You know, they'd send you the checks in the mail back in those days. And I would just like write even though it had like a 20% interest rate associated with it. Oh, I joke that I was like 5 years later, I was probably still paying for the same Chinese food that I bought 5 years ago on my credit card, just in interest. You know, so here you go. You have these unemployment claims holding steady, showing a recovery that is dwindling now in the United States. You're seeing that the U.S. dollar is about to collapse in the next few months as these vaccines start to roll out. So it's both good and bad news, right? So it's good news that we're getting the vaccines, but it's bad news for people that are hoping that their dollar will count for something, because it hits lower and middle class Americans the hardest, who have their savings in dollars and U.S. currency. That's what most people do. They have their basic, bank account, savings account, and that's it. All these Wall Street types, though, they're smart, right? They've got their money in all of these different asset classes, and they're not tied to the U.S. dollar, so they're fine. But you're not, and that's why we try to educate you here on the show to prepare for this. So mark my words, you're seeing the warning signs. All you need to do is look at the headlines this morning and see Financial Times, which I really respect their reporting. Vaccine arrival expected to trigger dollar slump in 2020. And not just a slump, a huge decline of up to 20%. So as we look towards this stimulus that's needed in this country, more than ever, we're hearing from a number of different people this morning. Former OMB chairman Peter Orszag. We're hearing from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But we're also hearing from Stephen Moore. Now, Stephen Moore, of course, is one of the White House economic advisors. And I don't know what he's smoking. But this is according to Jeff Stein, who's quoted him in a new piece in the Washington Post. White House economic advisor Stephen Moore on the stimulus. I don't see Republicans budging on the blue state bailout, and the economy is doing fine, much better than anyone expected. We think the economy is strong because Trump didn't go along with the deal. The hell are you talking about? These are the people, by the way, the Stephen Moores and the Mark Meadows, who've been in Trump's ear for months, telling him, and Larry Kudlow, telling him that the economy's strong, we're fine. Meanwhile, we have week after week after week showing a recovery that is grinding to a halt, millions of people about to be evicted, people that have just given up looking for work altogether, lower income individuals have had their jobs eradicated, and they're not coming back. 10 million jobs just not coming back. The economy's strong. It's fine. It's fine. It's much better than anyone expected. Did you hear Fed Chief Jerome Powell last week talking about these major problems inside the economy with long-term unemployment? Did you hear him talking about permanent job loss? Did you hear him talking about those people who now have been out of work for so many months? There's a worry about their skills. and whether or not they'll be able to go back to work or be rehired because their skills have dwindled? What earth are you on? So that got some people fired up, in most notably Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who tweeted this out in response to that. 30 million people in this country are at risk of eviction. Millions of people are unemployed or underemployed from cutback hours. The economy is not the stock market. We are not doing fine. People need help in red states and blue, and our job is to help everyone. This is basic. This is basic. So what is the Senate doing today? Well, the Senate decided to go home. Because it is Thanksgiving after all. Here's Jake Sherman from Politico Update. The Senate is expected to recess tonight. This was last night, until after Thanksgiving. So they're gone. They've left. That means they will come back the week of November 30th ahead of a December 11th government funding deadline. There has been no progress on a COVID relief deal. Very unlikely one will come together at this point.
Come on,
Way
man.
to go, Mitch. Way to go, Mitch. But before he left town, he did manage to take to the Senate floor and talk about Trump withdrawing troops from the Middle East. So here's Peter Orszag, former OMB chair. He had this to say. He was under Obama. He was asked about this, and he said, this pain point is not going away, and it's only getting worse. Listen to this.
On the prospect for stimulus in the short term, there's been more talk of it again, rumors or just positive tones. But should we expect anything to get over the line, in your view, before the end of this calendar year?
I think it's probably unlikely. It should happen. I mean, basically what's been happening in the economy is that when the pandemic hit, we put so much money into people's pockets through the CARES Act that savings rates went up and credit card debt went down. We are now burning through that cushion remarkably quickly. And it is a self-inflicted wound to not be filling the gap to bridge to what we now can expect to be a brighter 2021 because of the advances in science. This is completely self-imposed and unnecessary.
Can that be rectified early?
A self-inflicted wound. That's exactly what it is. So Mitch McConnell's pause during the summer, President Trump's inaction during the summer, listening to Larry Kudlow and yahoos like Stephen Moore say that everything's fine, that because we saw nice third quarter numbers, but the underlying fundamentals, as Fed Chief Jerome Powell had been warning, he was actively warning. He said, these numbers are good. However, there's a fundamental fissure in our economy right now that we need to pay attention to. And we didn't, or they didn't. We were paying attention to it right here, beating this drum all summer. And now you're starting to see the effects of this. He asks a good follow-up question here.
In the new year by the Biden administration, or will permanent damage be done? I mean, it's not like we're months away from that moment now.
Yeah, it's still awkward. I think to go 2 or 3 months with nothing, and then let's just be clear, even in January, probably wind up with something that's not adequate or too small is not a great combination. So if we could get something now, great. If we could get something now that was in place as long as the unemployment rate remained elevated, even better. Waiting till January is unfortunate. I think it's probably the most likely scenario. And we're, again, just making a difficult situation worse for no reason.
No reason. Senate goes home, takes their vacation. And we wrote about this in the newsletter today. By the way, you can subscribe to our free newsletter. It's delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. We had a couple hundred new people sign up overnight, so thank you so much. Welcome. But we wrote about this in the newsletter, talking about the 12 million unemployed people who are going to lose their employment benefits the day after Christmas. What a Christmas present that'll be as the CARES Act expires. The extra $600 per week that had been offered to the unemployed in July, and there have been additional funds from the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Benefits Fund, that is about to end. So the PUA program, which gives jobless aid to freelance and gig workers, those contract workers, that's about to run out. 7.3 million people rely on that income right now. Additionally, a moratorium on evictions will end on December 31st. It's all like a ticking time bomb right now. All of these things. I mean, when I went through the laundry list the other day, there's like 12 things that are about to expire. This, all those student loan borrowers, You haven't made a single payment since March. Guess what? Get ready to start making those payments. And we have to wait till January for President-elect Biden to take office to try to enact some sort of executive orders in that amount of time. And we know that among the things that are on that list would be wiping away $50,000 in student loan debt by executive action. Could, by executive action, he extend the eviction moratorium? These are things he could do without Mitch McConnell. Of course, mortgage forbearance, he could extend that. He could also extend the unemployment benefits assistance. So there's a number of things he could do with executive action that he doesn't have to wait for Mitch McConnell, Turtle Boy, who's down there in Kentucky, doing nothing. What do you mean, Clayton?
A disorganized retreat would jeopardize the track record of major successes this administration has worked hard to compile.
Yeah. Really care about the people. Really care about the people. It's infuriating. Any good questions come in on the stimulus?
We had somebody ask, isn't it backwards if we go back to gold?
Well, look, we went off the gold standard under Nixon. Do you feel confident that we are going forward now? When our currency isn't tied to anything? When our coins are not silver? I mean, there was a time you could literally go into a bank with your coins and ask them to give you silver in response. So that for everything we printed, there was gold associated with it. That's why China has been hoarding gold. Because it's one of the most stable long-term assets for 4,000 years, and they're not making more of it. Do you know that gold comes from supernovas? Do you know that? It's actually stardust. They're not making more gold. But you know what? When you're the federal government, you can just print money and create currency and continue to make all this fake digital currency like the Fed does. That's not stardust. It's literally air that they're printing. What is it tied to? And by the way, I don't know if you saw the news this morning, the world's economy, the amount of debt that the world's economies are in now is staggering. It's breaking all kinds of records. Let me see if I can find that latest number. It was a staggering amount of debt. Unbelievable amount. It's like, I don't know, it's 733 trillion or something absurd. The number was off the charts. But anyway, world's economy. Everyone is in so much debt. Maybe we just need like one big, let's wipe all the debt out. Start over, everybody. Every country just owes so much money. The United States owes so much money to China. So much debt to China. China swoops in and buys up all these utility companies in Europe and all these different places. Wants to set up 5G networks all over Europe. How are they pulling this off? Because they're hoarding so much gold. They've got the assets behind it. They've got the borrowing power. So no, I don't think it'd be regressive to go back to gold at all. I think it would be, we moved from a gold economy, we moved into a debt economy. So that's what our economy is now. It's based on debt. That's it. It went from gold to debt with that shift. That's my thought.
And also, do you think, I saw a question here, where did it go? Basically, do you think there'll be a one-time, here it is, James Clayton, do you think they'll give us a one-time or a continuous stimulus if we get a stimulus?
I think, it all depends on what happens in Georgia. I think if Mitch McConnell loses power, it's quite possible with those Georgia runoffs that you could have Democrats pushing for a extended universal basic income for a while, some sort of a long-term pandemic assistance through a year. I know that's what Bernie Sanders wanted to do, Kamala Harris wanted to do, Ed Markey wanted to do, which is $2,000 a month in the Emergency Money for the People Act. So again, I think if Mitch McConnell loses power, then that changes everything. If these two, and by the way, we covered this in the newsletter this morning. I don't know if you saw this story. Georgia is like the place to be. You have Democrats that are literally relocating to Georgia, setting up their primary address in Georgia just so they can vote in Georgia. Seems a little extreme, don't you think? But hey, if you were thinking about moving and you're like, well, we were going to move in the spring to Georgia, but now, based on this election, we're going to go there and establish residency today. So apparently the phone has been ringing off the hook in California at, what was that office? Natalie, that office in San Francisco? What's that, what? Oh, it was an advocacy group. They said their phone's been ringing off the hook to helping them with people that want to relocate to Georgia just so they can vote. So it really comes down to what's going to happen. What's going to happen with the stimulus is likely what's going to happen in Georgia at the beginning of January. So if you're in Georgia, vote if you want a stimulus. We got more to get to here on the show. Take a little drink of coffee. We're going to talk COVID numbers here in a second.
Really quick, Sherry Kraft is saying, David, please ask, does anyone know how to start a petition to go out to everyone for signatures and comments to get a stimulus package? I guarantee you there's probably been some kind of a petition already, and they're not going to listen to that.
No, I mean, we featured a really nice petition here on the show back a number of months ago on change.org. If you go over to change.org, you can see a number of those different petitions that are there demanding a stimulus. But that's the thing, if these members of Congress just won re-election, they have all their big money donors that continue to, Mitch McConnell won re-election. He is one of the most disliked senators in the Senate. He has one of the lowest approval ratings of any senator, specifically in Kentucky. How did he win re-election? Millions of dollars from big energy companies that just keep these incumbents entrenched. What about Dan Sullivan up in Alaska? Here's a guy who bought and sold by by these mining companies, these big energy companies that want to drill in Alaska. Pay him off. He gets saw the newsletter this morning, you know that we just passed a milestone, 250,000 COVID deaths in the United States alone. Here's the latest map. This is the worst that it's ever been. These numbers right now are the worst that it's ever been in the United States. 185% increase in Vermont, West Virginia up 61%, Louisiana up 133%. So when you look at this map, you'll notice that anything in brown or dark brown is increasing. If it's gray, that means it's steady. That's it. Hawaii is the only state that's trending blue at the moment, and that's an island. This is how bad it's gotten in the United States. Now, that's causing a whole new round of lockdowns. New York City, home to the country's largest public school district, ordered schools closed yesterday. So no more in-person learning in New York City. And Andrew Cuomo, the governor, has said that New York could see astronomical rise in cases. Oh, but Cuomo, I thought you just released a book talking about how you defeated coronavirus in New York. and your leadership led to the eradication of coronavirus. Ohio announced a 3-week curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. starting today. New Mexico, they've been told to shelter in place for 2 weeks because of what Governor Michelle Grisham called a life or death situation. So New Mexico, how many people watching from New Mexico this morning? Let me know in the chat. In Georgia, in Augusta, Georgia, James Gilliam says temporary school system, temporary closure of school systems there. California reimposed tight restrictions on 94% of its population. Washington State, Michigan, and other states have halted indoor dining. So you're up there in Washington State, right? So,
yep.
Yeah. So you guys get no indoor dining anywhere?
Nope. They're pretty much going back to the original lockdown. So.
But see, it's so erratic because you'll have them canceling school, but then you'll have dining still open in certain states. Makes no sense. Like, at least in schools, everyone's supposed to be wearing a mask. But at these, you go out dining, you're taking your mask off to put food in your face. Philadelphia also halted indoor dining. Iowa was among some Republican-led states. That did a 180 on mask mandates. So now they're doing a mask mandate in Iowa. They were against it before. New Orleans said it wouldn't host parades for Mardi Gras season for the first time in 42 years. So number one topic of conversation right now is Thanksgiving. People calling Thanksgiving a time bomb waiting to happen. Of course, I love Kayleigh McEnany, a White House spokesperson, White House communications. What is her name? Press secretary. That's what I'm trying to say. She said that this is it's Orwellian to ask people to not go to Thanksgiving. It's Orwellian to ask people to not. First of all, if you just saw what happened in Canada, we reported on it here. After they had Canadian Thanksgiving a few weeks ago in October, they saw a huge surge in cases because everyone got together, dined indoors without masks, relatives going over to relatives' houses that may had COVID, that they didn't know they had it, and they spread it. And now you see a surge in cases. You think the United States is going to do better than Canada?
Is it Orwellian to put a tourniquet on a bleeding injury?
Right.
To stop
that's
the bleeding?
Orwellian. I don't think she knows what that even means. To me, it's more Darwinian. Hey, all the people that get together for Thanksgiving and want to spread coronavirus, that's Darwinian. Is it that important? Can you put it off for a little while?
We're going to do ours over Zoom. We're just going to set up a camera and we're going to cook and we've got a little, like one of those Alexa devices that'll sit on the counter and we can be in the kitchen cooking and everybody's going to kind of get together on Zoom. And
see, that's a good solution. We did that for Halloween with the big, my sister and her family and my sister-in-law and her family. We all got together on Zoom and FaceTime or whatever. And we just had the kids in their costumes. We were laughing and talking. We had it just going for like an hour and a half. Everyone was talking and showing costumes. And we did a pumpkin carving thing over Zoom. So we each had our things set up and we did pumpkin carving contest. And yeah, it's not the same as sitting around a fire, drinking a scotch with your grandpa, but it's also better than killing grandpa.
Well, and we're not celebrating Thanksgiving. We're celebrating Wolfenoot. So
what's that?
It's that, like, to celebrate dogs and wolves.
Wolfenoot. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, some kid came up with it and people clung on to it. Now it's a thing.
Is that like Festivus?
Yes, exactly.
Like Festivus. Yeah, I mean, you take a look at these numbers and this idea that this is Orwellian to ask people to stay home, to not travel for Thanksgiving. Well, they're not flying, so we know they're just going locally to their parents. I mean, we see flights are just down tremendously right now. all across the country.
Well, and someone just said, why don't people just get tested before Thanksgiving? And if your family is negative, have a get together. If positive, stay away. This is all common sense. But I have a question.
Yeah,
did you see? I don't know. I didn't do any research on it, but where Elon Musk tweeted that he was tested 4 times and twice was positive, twice was negative. Did you do any research on that? Same machine, same test, same nurse. So it's just like made me think: are the testing numbers that skewed that if he did the test 4 times and twice was positive, twice was negative? And then there was a girl that posted too that she got tested in one nostril, she was positive, the other nostril she was negative.
What?
Yeah. So, take what Elon Musk says with a grain of salt, but you know, I don't think he'd tweet that if that weren't the case.
No, I think you're right. Here's the story. This is crazy. And, maybe someone that, is asymptomatic doesn't even have a fever either, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a means of testing when you go into a restaurant. Elon Musk says he tested positive and negative for COVID-19. Elon Musk said Thursday night on Twitter that he has received mixed results after being tested for COVID-19 and is currently experiencing symptoms of a common cold. He was tested 4 times using that rapid antigen test. 2 tests came back positive, 2 came back negative. He's also waiting the results from 2 PCR tests, but the results won't be known for 24 hours. So this antigen test works by detecting a small protein on the surface of the coronavirus, whereas the more accurate PCR tests look for the virus itself. Oh, so the antigen tests are the ones they can do rapidly, but the PCR tests are, I guess, more accurate. Huh. He says something extremely bogus is going on. There's some sort of
Okay, I just put you in low bandwidth mode, so
should be good.
Yeah, we should be good. The quality is going to go down a little bit. I had to put it in low quality mode, but that'll keep it because I think you're having either some internet issues or something's running on your computer because you've locked up twice on me now.
Shoot.
But you should be good in low bandwidth. So.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that's fixed. Yeah, I see there's a Windows update trying to do, but I won't do that.
That could be happening though, because what it does is it pulls in the update, even though it's not doing it. It downloads it, and if it's a big update, that'll utilize your CPU for a while.
Okay, that might be doing it. Just hit pause here. I don't know what that's happening here. All right. So that's that on the stimulus front. That's that on COVID front. I want to talk about, so yesterday President Trump made some further announcements on bringing troops home, and everyone got all the liberal media flipped out, Republicans flipped out, all of the warmongers that love having defense contractors just make so much money off of this. It's an opportunity to jump all over him for this. And, I'm not a President Trump fan at all. But one of the areas that I absolutely agree with him is on getting people home and stopping these wars. And so whatever you think about the guy, he has not started a war. We could argue he got very close in Iran. But nevertheless, there's no wars. And he's wanted to end them. But he's getting such pushback from all of these warmongers and war hawks in his administration and who are not in his administration. So yesterday he made the announcement he wants to bring troops home from Somalia, to which a lot of people probably went, wait, we have troops in Somalia? So he wants to bring an additional, here's a New York Times story, which I love. This just made me laugh to no ends. He wants to bring troops home from Somalia. And I love that the New York Times uses this photo. Somalia worries that a U.S. withdrawal will be disastrous. Now, this is a photo from Somalia currently. That looks like a disaster already. But it would be disastrous. An elite commando unit supported by U.S. forces could fall apart, officials say, leaving the country more vulnerable to the Shabab and other terrorist groups. Okay. So let's just dissect that, shall we, a little bit? So President Trump wants to bring these people home because, well, what purpose are we serving there? The New York Times goes deeper into this article and points out that we have been bombing them relentlessly with drone strikes. And guess what? It's not worked. And Shabab has gotten even more resilient. Their words, by the way. So then how do you square that with this headline? A U.S. withdrawal will be disastrous. So while we are there with 600 troops whose lives are at risk, we're bombing them relentlessly with drones, killing innocent people, going after Shabab. They're not getting killed. They're becoming more resilient and stronger. They're growing in power.
Has there ever been any information indicating that drone strikes have helped anything?
Well, we hear that we've destroyed ISIS, but that hasn't really happened, right? Because now they've popped up in other places. So what? We're just going to keep going around the world with drone strikes? Here's the thing. Here's an idea. Maybe you pull back completely. Of course, the fear and
Okay. All right, 1 second here. Okay. I think we're good. Let me push this out really quick.
how are we looking, everybody?
Trying to see how delayed that is.
It's not
okay.
very...
Yep, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's what's going on your computer, but it's like you just freeze, and then it just freezes up my whole system. So
maybe someone doesn't want the truth out there.
YouTube,
you can't handle the truth.
So where was I? So talking about Somalia, I want to go through this New York Times piece a little bit more because, so I'm going to just read it because it's like a great piece of propaganda. The American-trained Somali commando force, DANAB, is usually deployed to counter the al-Qaeda-linked group Al-Shabaab, liberating areas it controls, ending its attacks on government offices and beachside restaurants, and targeting senior Shabaab operatives. But with President Trump expected to withdraw American troops from Somalia, the highly specialized Somali force will be left in limbo, jeopardizing whatever security gains it helped achieve in recent years. What security gains? Because as we dig deeper into the piece, you point out and tell us that they've only gotten stronger with our help. What gains? And by the way, why is this our responsibility? Did I show you the food line in Dallas where there's thousands of cars, people at a food bank? And people say, how can we pay for this? You have Ted Cruz and others saying, how can we pay to help the American people during a pandemic? I got an idea. Why are we sending people? Why are we setting up bases in Somalia? Because we need to be a force for good, according to Mitch McConnell.
A disorganized retreat would jeopardize the track record of major successes this administration has worked hard to compile.
Yeah, we got major successes. According to the New York Times, as we've continued with our airstrikes against these terrorist groups, even in the face, here's a quote, even in the face of relentless American drone strikes, the Shabab have been resilient, transforming into a leaner, smarter organization that holds sway over larger stretches of land in Somalia. Okay, we've been helping. The group continues to expand its bomb-making operations, infiltrate government institutions, and carry out attacks on civilians and security targets in Kenya and Somalia. It's also now awash in cash. They've enriched themselves thanks to American involvement, collecting millions of dollars in tariffs and payoffs and investing in real estate and businesses. They're real estate investors, according to a recent United Nations report. Sorry, Mitch, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue with your wisdom.
As a number of former officials and ambassadors recently stated, the spectacle of U.S. troops abandoning facilities and equipment, leaving the field in Afghanistan to the Taliban and ISIS, would be broadcast around the world as a symbol of U.S. defeat and humiliation and of victory for Islamic extremism.
Okay. So we suddenly care about images being broadcast around the world that are embarrassing to us. But how about when we run it, we don't touch it? So we're more concerned with what people will think of us when we leave a country where we are doing no good. We care more about the perception. It reminds me of like a story the other day we were talking about, like this idea of not breaking up with somebody because of the perception of like what the friends will say or the family will say. Like, I can't break up with that person because what will the community think? What is this, like 1950s America? Can't get a divorce because then you know what? Everyone on the street will talk. So I have to stay in this abusive marriage where I'm getting punched in the stomach every day because I don't want the neighbors to talk. That's what this is like. So we're more concerned about the perception of the cameras. I'm sorry, Mitch, continue.
President Trump deserves major credit for reducing U.S. forces in Afghanistan to a sustainable level, scoring major victories against terrorists across the region, and ensuring the Afghans themselves are at the front of the fight. That same successful approach should continue until the conditions for long-term defeat of ISIS and al-Qaeda have been achieved.
Right. So endless war. What is that marker? They're getting stronger. So we should just continue to stay there. So they're stronger now. So does that mean we should surge again? Why don't we send thousands more people in? Why don't we do that again, Mitch? Because that's what you really want. Why don't we just send thousands more people in? Because if they're getting stronger and now ISIS is popping up all over Northern Africa, then your strategy didn't really work, did it? But we've got people at food banks in the United States and millions of people facing eviction. But this is what you take to the Senate floor to talk about. And then go on vacation, by the way. All of these people came out. I love how all of these media organizations come out and slam President Trump, like the New York Times. Somalia worries that a withdrawal will be disastrous. And this, side by side. It would be disaster. I can't get over the choice of this photo. So we're there. You're telling me we are there now. And this is how good it looks. And they're stronger than ever. So we should continue. Right? It's like repeating the same thing over and over again, hoping for different results. That's insanity. Let's talk about Joe Biden. Oh, here's a story that's going to piss off a lot of people. You're seeing a lot of headlines over the past few days about we should really be praising transition team Biden because, look, he's putting a lot of women in places of power that have been normally held by strong white men. And now we're going to have strong women in these positions. He's feminist, right? So we have all these women now in these positions of power. And where will they have these women be? Oh, they're going to be at the Pentagon. These women are going to be at the Pentagon. Caitlin Johnstone wrote a great piece on her Substack about, I love this Pentagon tweet that came out. Biden likely to break barriers. Pick women to lead the Pentagon. This is what the tweet said from the Associated Press. President-elect Joe Biden is expected to take a historic step and select a woman to head the Pentagon for the first time, shattering one of the few remaining barriers to women in the department and the presidential cabinet. Michelle Flournoy, a politically moderate Pentagon veteran, is regarded by U.S. officials as a moderate. And she's going to lead the Pentagon. She's seen as a steady hand who favors strong military cooperation abroad. Flournoy, 59 years old, has served multiple times in the Pentagon, starting in the 1990s, and most recently as the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy from 2009 to 2012. She serves on the board of the Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a defense contractor. So all the people that Biden is now bringing into his to work on foreign policy all made weapons. They made their money off of making weapons.
I think the definition of the word moderate changes when it's tied to a warmonger.
Right. Yeah, the AP uses this word moderate. Like it's, what does that mean when you're a moderate warmonger? Like, wouldn't it be, and then we should be applauding that? Shouldn't we be challenging that? So wouldn't it be crazy to be like a left-wing radical who doesn't want wars and wants to end this kind of stuff? But see, the thing is, the beauty of all of this is that like the left-wing media is like couching all of this as he's a feminist because he's putting a warmonger in charge of the Pentagon. And that's great. So they're hoping you'll just like look past the fact that she worked for defense contractors, made money off of making weapons because she's a woman. She's a woman. And women, you know, they just love. They love kittens and soft blankets. This Caitlin Johnstone piece is pretty amazing, though. She says, some of my favorite lines in this, she says, as we discussed recently, Flournoy is a bloodthirsty imperialist and war profiteer who peace activists accurately labeled an angel of death for the American empire. As leader of the laughably titled Department of Defense, she can be expected to oversee the same agendas of unipolar global domination at the expense of rivers of blood as her predecessors, in more or less exactly the same ways. And what does she mean? Well, she means under Obama, the explosion of drone strikes, I mean, not even close to what George W. Bush did. It just exploded beyond that, expanding into Yemen, in favor of toppling strikes in Syria without congressional approval. Because it doesn't end there. Look at Susan Rice, who's also expected to come back into the fold, who told President Obama to avoid Congress and strike Syria. Don't wait for Congress, she proclaimed. In fact, she recently did an interview where she talked about that. This is a proud moment for her. Just go around Congress. Don't seek their approval. This is exactly what we were so furious about with George W. Bush. How can he just do this without congressional approval? Through executive action, you can just declare war? Not even call it a war, just call it a war on terrorism, so there's no actual war resolution? I think the last war resolution we have in the United States was World War II, if I'm not mistaken, or was it the Korean War? So we have not had an official declaration of war from the Congress since then. Vietnam, we didn't. That's what happens. You don't have a war resolution in Congress, and it just continues, unabated. Michelle Flournoy is a woman. I love this part of this Caitlin piece. But because Michelle Flournoy is a woman, we will see her appointment as defense secretary applauded and upheld as a major landmark for women by a political media class which has never cared about women beyond their ability to turn the gears of the machine. She says, Flournoy is no more a moderate than the moderate rebels in Syria, which mass media outlets like the AP praised for years until it became undeniable that they were largely al-Qaeda affiliates. The only reason such a position can be portrayed as mainstream and moderate is because vast fortunes have been poured into making it that way. Chris Raines in our chat says they just label them as peacekeeping missions. Yeah.
Did you ever see that interview with General Wesley Clark on Democracy Now? When he talked about the 5-nation plan to overthrow the Middle East?
Yes, I did. Remind me of it, though. I interviewed him a number of times back in the day.
Yeah, so just talking about how they already had a plan with 9/11 to go into 5 countries, and that was Somalia, Iraq, Iran. And because he was like, when he went into the Pentagon, he was shocked when they said they were going to Iran. He's like, why are we going into Iraq? He's like, why are we going into Iraq?
Right.
And he's like, oh, it gets worse. We're also going to go into these countries. They had this plan back then. And it's like, when you go back and listen to that, you can see that they've done exactly what they wanted to do. Other than Iran. Iran is the last one on that list. And look at what we're doing. We're escalating.
Yeah, that's precisely right. You think about why Donald Rumsfeld stood there in the Oval Office after the attacks on 9/11, and when everyone else was saying, we knew this was Osama bin Laden. You had Richard Clark in the office, and we told you, here it is. He's in Afghanistan hiding in caves. We have to launch attacks there. Take him out, smoke him out of his hole, as George W. Bush said, which no one disagrees with. You know, going after you're attacked, you fight back, right? Smoke them out of its hole. But instead, Donald Rumsfeld says, we can't attack. There's no good targets. There's no good television targets in Afghanistan. So we need to go into Iraq. We need to basically manufacture a whole pile of crap and go into Iraq where there's buildings to blow up. That's better. And we can tie Saddam Hussein to Osama bin Laden. You know, it's just amazing to me. And to think like we're going to start to see these people like Susan Rice and these warmongers coming back into the fold, and they'll be praised. Oh, she's an African-American woman who told Obama to go into Syria, start a war in Syria. Let's build a military base in Syria. But she's a woman. So that's good. That's okay. So get ready, folks. Watch over, CNN, MSNBC. You're going to see these people popping up now on a regular basis, talking on camera as an analyst or as a contributor, or they're going to pop up to get there. We're very lucky tonight. We have Susan Rice on. And congratulations on your new position. How does it feel to be the, African-American woman serving in this position inside of the Biden White House? This is big. Yeah, it feels amazing. But Rachel Maddow will not ask her about why did you decide to start a war in Syria? Tell Obama to go around Congress. And the same thing with Michelle Fournoy. But she's a woman, so we should just forget about all of this. My favorite, and if I can see if I can find it here, my favorite part of this piece from Caitlin Johnson, see if I'm losing it here, but was, it's a piece she ends, see if I can find it. I don't have it. Having trouble with my computer today syncing up. Let's see if I can find it. Grover's not happy about this either, by the way. Here it is. Here it is.
He sounds damn right pissed right now.
He is pissed. He doesn't like this kind of stuff. He doesn't like when he likes when I tell the truth. But what did she say about Spanx? I love this. Oh, here it is. Here's what Caitlin Johnstone says. Let's clear this up before the girl power parade starts. The first woman to head the U.S. war machine will not be a groundbreaking pioneer of feminist achievement. She will be a mass murderer who wears Spanx. Her appointment will not be an advancement for women. It will be imperialism in pumps. She says, modern mainstream feminism has abandoned women's interests so thoroughly and completely in almost all spheres of importance that it's largely become only superficially distinct from the patriarchy it purports to oppose. That is damning. What a damning takedown of this. So don't be fooled, folks, when you see mainstream media trying to force feed this crap on you. You know the truth. And, if you believe, like I do, that we should be ending these foreign wars, how are we rewarding defense contractors who literally profit off of war now being put in charge of these very offices and is masquerading as feminism? And we're breaking glass ceilings. It's a pile of crap.
Well, on our Secretary of State?
Be aware of it.
Secretary of State is from Raytheon, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Loading them up. Keep loading them up. Almost everyone now involved in his foreign policy is former weapons contractor. It's disgusting.
I have that Wesley Clark interview
up
to send you if you want to watch that again.
Oh, yeah. I can find it here, but can't pull it up because I got to run to a meeting. But so, my friends, I wish I had some better news for you as the Senate goes home for their Thanksgiving break. While thousands of people still waiting for stimulus checks and unemployment benefits set to run out. If you don't think we are a failed state, then you need to get your head examined. These corporate greed monsters that continue to make money while you suffer. Well, we'll continue to report on it and continue to grind away on it and bring awareness to it. I'm encouraged that I get a lot of emails from you and tweets and so forth that tell me, I didn't have much interest in politics until I started watching this show. I just didn't understand how the system worked until I started watching this show. And I want to say thank you for that, because it makes doing this show all the more worth it, to make sure that we're shedding light on stories that people need to hear about, but they won't if they're watching, the mainstream media news channels and reading this corporate fed BS that you're being force fed. All of these media companies are run by 8 billionaires. They control the entire narrative.
Well, and so even a lot of your
supporting independent journalism,
and even a lot of your third party people they pick a side, and so you're hearing a biased echo chamber point of view. And I like that you'll go against both sides.
Yeah. There's a lot of YouTube that does it too. It's like They're just replacing. It's like a YouTube version of CNN. You know, all they do is pick on Trump all day. They won't call out Biden for putting warmongers in his cabinet. You're not going to hear that on some of these other YouTube. You know, so I don't have, you know, all I care about is the truth in this, and shedding light on these stories, and making sure, by the way, that you're protected financially. You know, my whole thing is I want people to achieve financial freedom. I want you to make sure that you're able to take care of your family outside of this corrupt system where all these people are profiting off of you. People don't know it. People don't understand it. People don't understand that financial advisors make thousands of dollars off of you. People don't understand all of the hidden fees that are in their 401k. People don't understand that when you go to refinance your house, you're basically screwing yourself if you don't do it properly. So all of these Wall Street corporate greed monsters make money off of you. So we're here to shine a light on it. So thank you so much for supporting independent journalism. And thanks to all of our channel members, by the way. You can become a channel member and support the show if you like, just for the price of a cup of coffee once a month by going to morninginvest.com/join. And we really, really thank you for all of your support. I've got to run. I've got a meeting. I hate when I schedule these meetings right up at like 10 a.m. right after the show, but hey, got to keep it going. Much love to all of you. Guess who's going to be stepping in for me tomorrow? My wife, Natalie, is going to be doing the show tomorrow because I'm going to be traveling. So she is going to be stepping in to do the show. Way smarter than me, clearly. So she's going to be stepping in to do the show. So be kind to her tomorrow. It'll be a fun Friday.
Well, they'll be kind, or they'll be deleted in the chat.
Yeah, David will make sure of it. Don't pick on my wife. I'll come after you. No, but we've got a great audience, so I know you guys are all very kind. Much love to all of you. Grover says, oh, here he is. There you are, buddy. Grover says, have a great week. Have a great Friday. Have a great Thursday night, everyone. Yeah, you've been sleeping all day? All right, much love to all of you. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye, David.